Welcome back, everyone. It is Eric from Candy, and today we're going to be checking out the first batch of cards that were just revealed for Japan's upcoming Pokemon card 151 set. So we don't exactly know when these cards are going to be released internationally, but this is a bit of a smaller set, so I'm willing to bet this is going to be like a Champion's Path, Pokemon Go set sort of situation. But no exact confirmation on that just yet. But the big news from this set is that it's focusing in on the original 151 Pokemon, as the name would suggest, including the return of the homie Kadabra into the TCG after 15 or 20 years or something. So very happy to have Kadabra back in card form once again. But with that being said, before we hop into these reveals, make sure to smack that like button, feed that always hungry YouTube algorithm, and let's jump in and check out these new cards from the Pokemon card 151 set. So as we're sort of scrolling through some of these Pokemon, one thing I actually didn't notice, but a user on Twitter pointed out, is that the card artwork here actually references apparently some of the original card arts back from like base set and jungle and stuff. So, they're not like one-to-one recreations of those artworks. It's just kind of like they pay homage to them, which is, kind of nice. The cards themselves, nothing too special with these little pre-evolutions here. So Alakazam EX is definitely going to be one of the more interesting new cards that we're getting here. So of course, Stage 2 Pokemon EX has 2 attacks. The first one for 2 colorless is 90, plus 30 more for each of your opponent's benched Pokemon. So if your opponent does have a full bench here, that's going to be 150 plus 90, so 240 damage if I'm doing my math correctly. That's definitely a decent amount. Though more than likely, I would assume we're probably powering this thing up with a double turbo energy. So more than likely we'd be hitting for 220 at that point, which honestly is still a decent amount of damage just for a single attachment. Especially against decks like Miraidon, you can easily one-shot them since they always have a full bench. So very good against like basic Pokemon V. But the second attack is, I think, a lot more interesting. For 2 Psychic Energy, does 120, and this Pokemon can use this attack even when it is on the bench. So we've never really seen an effect like this as far as I'm aware, at least. Like we've seen hit and run style Pokemon like Donphan or like the Morpeko V, where you attack and switch to the bench, but I don't remember where we've ever had a card that attacked from the bench. So this is actually, I think, really cool, because what this means is we can have Pokemon in the active like Klefki to shut off our opponent's abilities, or something like a Diancie to prevent our opponent from bossing up our Alakazam, and then just kind of attack at a distance with this thing safely on the bench at that point, which is kind of cool, especially if we do use this first attack to, swing on our opponent for a decent chunk of damage. If they don't return KO us, we can actually just move to the bench and keep on attacking with our damaged Alakazam EX. So I think this attack is really cool. It's definitely not the heaviest hitting attack, which is probably fair given that you're attacking from the bench, but this card is definitely, I think, mechanically interesting, which, makes me hopeful for its, playability here. And the other new Pokemon EX we saw get revealed is going to be Mew EX, which I absolutely love the artwork on. This is actually one of my favorite Mew artworks we've had in a long time. So this guy, he's not the tankiest Pokemon EX, but does have free retreat, which actually is pretty sick. I do like that. And its ability here is really what makes this card, I think, interesting. So once during your turn, you can draw until you have 3 cards in your hand. So this is almost an identical reprint of the Instruct ability that we had on the Oranguru back from Sun and Moon, which was a card that did see a ton of play. Now, Mew being a multi-prize Pokemon definitely impacts this card's playability compared to Oranguru. Now, where this card draws some parallels to is actually Kricketune V. That's another card that we have in the format that's actually really similar to this already, but in the case of Kricketune, there's definitely some pros and cons. This ability stacks, whereas Krickatune's doesn't. Kricketune also does have a 1 retreat cost, whereas this doesn't. But if Kricketune is in your active spot, you do get an additional card. So there is definitely a little bit of tug and war between, I think, both these cards. But the other, I think, upside to Mew is that it actually does have an attack that you more than often will be able to use compared to Krickatune's. So for 3 colorless energy, you choose one of your opponent's active Pokemon's attacks and use it as this attack. So if we're going against something like a Giratina V-Star, we can just copy Lost Impact and instantly KO them. If we're going against a Miraidon, we can, again, just copy that, one-shot them. So this attack on Mew actually isn't too bad, though I would imagine, again, the main reason we would be playing Mew is going to be for this ability. So we do have a new Pokemon tool card. This is going to be Safety Goggles. It says the base Pokemon this card is attached to has no weakness. So kind of like a nerfed version of weakness policy back from, what was it, the X and Y era, I think weakness policy came out in. But, you know, basic Pokemon generally are going to have lower HP, making them a little bit easier to one-shot just in general. So I actually sort of question how good this card actually is, since a lot of attacks are, again, just going to be knocking out basics regardless. But it's nice at least to have the option to eliminate weakness. You know, in the case of Miraidon specifically, it actually would prevent Stonjourner from knocking you out and would force your opponent to use like a multi-prizer. So there are definitely situations where this card still can be good. And for the last new card, we have Giovanni's Charisma. So we put an energy attached to your opponent's active Pokemon into your hand. And if you do, attach an energy card from your hand to your active Pokemon. I'm not really sure what to make of this card exactly. It's definitely sort of a control card, but at the same time, it's still useful enough to where a lot of normal non-control archetypes can still use this, because more often than not, your opponent is going to have energy on their active, unless there's some sort of zero energy attacking deck, or unless they're like an Alakazam EX deck. You know, most of the time your opponent is going to have an energy. So that means this card is going to be live more often than not, you know, probably executing like the first turn of the game. And one thing that's actually cool about this card too is that it does not specify basic energy. So that means we can even accelerate things like double turbo energy, or there's like a crazy new special energy that we're getting in Japan's next set. So it is a supporter though at the end of the day. So a lot of decks I think are going to struggle to find a turn where they can use this card, like, because if they're playing this, they're not playing Professor's Research, they're not playing Judge, etc. So it's definitely going to be a card that can be awkward to make use of, but it is a pretty good effect. So even though that's going to do it for our new card reveals, as you can see down here, here's a couple of the card artworks that are like paying homage to, you know, their old base set counterparts. So just kind of a cool nod that they're doing here with the artwork in this set. So that's going to be it. There's not too many new reveals from the set just yet, but we definitely have some pretty interesting ones. I think the Alakazam and Mew are definitely, you know, the more notable ones, but let me know what you guys are thinking about this first batch of cards. Are you excited for more Gen 1 cards? Do you think Alakazam is going to be broken with this second attack here? Let me know your full thoughts today down below in the comment section. But as always, guys, if you did enjoy today's content, remember to leave a like on the video. And if you're feeling a little bit extra generous and want to take that support to the next level, you can also become a patron at patreon.com/rarecandytcg or pick up some merch at rarecandytcg.com. But as always, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.